Development Review Board meeting for the city of Montpelier on this March 17th. We are going to have staff review remote meeting procedures, and then we will move forward.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And the share screen is more for people who might be watching via ORCA Media, but there will be some bits of information for people who are on remotely already as well. All right, so for anyone viewing tonight's Development Review Board meeting via ORCA Media, you can participate in the discussion via the Zoom platform through either video or telephone access options. For the full video experience, and so that you can ask questions and we can see you, type this link into your web browser. Alternatively, you can call in using this phone number, and when prompted, put in this meeting ID. And under either one of those options, I will get a notification that you want to get into the meeting and be able to let you in. If anyone is having problems accessing the meeting, please email me at mcrandall@montpelier-vt.org. For those attending via Zoom, turning your video on is optional. For everyone attending, please keep your microphone on mute when you're not speaking to reduce background noise. And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. And when the chair calls on you, either unmute yourself at that point, or if you're having issues, I might be able to unmute you. If for anyone who happens to call in over the phone, you can use *6 to mute or unmute in the Zoom platform. Please note the Zoom chat function should only be used for troubleshooting or logistics questions, questions or comments about an actual item on the agenda. You should raise your hand either physically or by using the raise hand button on your toolbar. And then again, wait for the chair to call on you before you speak, especially the first time you speak, but really anytime that you do speak, we ask that you try to provide your full name and address for the record if you're not an applicant or a part of the applicant's team, or at least repeat your name if you speak more than once. This helps with the record keeping. And in the event the public is unable to access tonight's meeting, which I would get notification of through my email, the meeting would need to be continued to a time and place certain. I'll now hand the meeting back over to the chair.
Thank you. Let's first go around and introduce the board, please, starting on the right.
Rob Goodwin, Vice Chair.
Meredith Crandall, staff.
Sharon Allen. Let's go to Kevin.
Kevin O'Connell, board member.
Okay, great.
Alex Halas, board member.
Joe Kiernan, board member.
Great, thank you. The first thing we want to look at is the agenda. We need to get that approved.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Can you push that, Catherine? Hold on one second. Alex, you've got to mute the speaker on your computer, not just mute the Zoom. Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
And then hold on. I just got sorry to interrupt. I gotta pass these down. You can do your thing. I gotta pass these down.
Okay. So the first and only applicant this evening is Alyssa Bouchever. Okay, give it a shot. Ben Danowitz. Can I have both of you raise your right hands? You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Mary?
Yeah, other people.
Oh,
Because I know Chris Drenkoff is probably going to speak.
okay. So would all of those folks who are not the applicant who are planning on speaking at all, please raise their right hands as well. Yeah.
You've got Chris. I don't know. It looks like, so if Jim and Joaquin, if neither of you are planning on speaking, then you don't need to be sworn in. If you don't get sworn in now and you decide you want to speak later, you'll need to be sworn in at that time before you can speak on the application.
Okay, so Kevin, I don't have to swear him in.
No, you don't have to swear in, Kevin.
No, the people swear at me a lot, but
So do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties
do.
of perjury? Awesome. Thank you. There's somebody else with a hand up, right?
Oh, you got Chris?
Yeah, got Chris. Chris's hand was up.
Okay.
Yep, and I heard him say.
yes, it was.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, maybe like a, sentence overview here, Meredith.
Yes, sorry, I'm just making a couple notes of things that the minute taker wouldn't be able to see about people sworn in. Yes, so this is an application that's coming before the board because as the zoning administrator, I'm not allowed to approve development that disturbs or creates slopes of 30% or more. And this is a little bit of a different application than the board has maybe dealt with before because some of the engineered plans are available, some aren't. So there's sort of a phased approval being requested. But otherwise it's fairly similar to a lot of slopes development applications that has come before the board in the last 6 years.
If you could introduce yourselves and give us a brief overview of what we're proposing or what you're looking for.
Sure. Hi, I'm Alyssa Buchiver. I go by Allie. And Ben and I are partners, getting married in a couple months. And we just bought some land in Montpelier where I work at the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I'm a farmer turned non-farmer and excited to build a house.
I'm Ben Danowitz, and I am a builder and roofer. Those aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Essentially, with the project, we acknowledge the process, obviously, that most everybody has to go through. But what we're here to do today is to ask for a variance on our progress, just given the greater circumstances that we're in the current market. Just in terms of keeping our construction program on schedule, which would then help avoid significant financial setback in the process. So that's kind of what initiated this ask from us to Meredith and in turn everybody else. So
Board members had a chance to review the project.
Yes.
Yes,
Um,
good.
I think, I know we usually go into it. I just maybe quick follow-up.
Sure.
Yeah, you mentioned it's like asking for a variance in the process. I don't know if you could expand a little bit on sort of what that means.
So essentially, normally we would have had our foundation structurally engineered during the submission of the permit application, but we weren't quite aware of all of the circumstances of how the site was going to be developed based on kind of the dynamic nature of design. So once we finally submitted everything, and these plans have been in the works for over, I would say, since April of last year. So we've been working on this for a while, but by the time we had set everything up, I had set up several subs that are of like higher consequence that are just like tougher to get in a line. Utility, excavation, blasting, and also land clearing. And I just know from being in the trades for the past nearly 15 years around here, how difficult it can be when you push somebody's schedule out to the point where then they can't do it maybe for like another year. So it was just one of those things where if, we called an engineer at the time that we were requested to have the structural engineering, we wouldn't be able to get an engineer until basically about mid-April is the first engineer that we met with that was qualified to do that aspect of it. So we were just like, based on the the nature of the waiting period and how the process goes, that would basically push the start date of our project out like 2 months later, you know, and those things happen, but I'm just trying to manage as best as possible the timelines as much as I can.
So you do have a engineering date set.
Yeah, we've gotten an estimate from an engineer in Richmond who said that the only thing that he can't get to it until mid-April, but we said that that would be okay, hopefully, given the time slot.
Okay. So a little bit about this lot. So, can you pop up the map?
Yeah. I did see a hand from Chris. I don't know if that's
Oh, I'm sorry.
appropriate at this point, but
Yeah,
Chris, go ahead.
yeah. I just wanted to make sure just what we're asking for is the board's conditional approval here, pending the receipt of that engineered foundation design prior to the actual issuance of the building permit for the house. Just so that the site work and the front end stuff that's time sensitive can get rolling a little sooner than it might if we waited for that all the way for that. It's a single family residence. It's where we've got ledge and from a design standpoint, there's nothing unusual here. Really the only unusual thing is for a single family residence having a certified engineered foundation design. So that's the one condition, not a variance in the statutory sense, but a condition of an approval that would allow us to get started a little sooner on the site work.
Okay, thank you.
So I pulled up the
Oh, the map,
first
yeah.
plan.
Let me just talk about where everything is on this map quickly.
Yeah, who? I'm like, who talk? Yes.
So where's the?
Hold on one second. Ben or Allie,
yes.
can one of you make that zoom window a little smaller with not the furthest right little option, but that one? There, awesome.
You want me to move it at all?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
I think it's okay. So in this area over here, things are a little slow. Is where Parkside Drive is.
Okay.
And the board 2 years ago, so in 2023, approved a boundary line adjustment on this land. So originally this drive here all the way up to this back parcel, which is where Ben and Allie are looking to build. This was all one parcel, and this parcel that Bill and Jean Jolly own sort of stopped here along the easement. And in 2023, the board approved a boundary line adjustment to sort of push this line all the way across and make this land part of the Bill and Jean Jolly parcel, so that now instead of that parcel having an easement to get to Parkside Drive, this parcel back here has the easement. So you've seen this, most of you, I think all of you maybe have seen this parcel.
Very familiar.
And so this gray here, and this is showing both parcels, right?
Yeah.
This gray here is new driveway being added in, goes back here, and here's the single family home. And here's the garage. So most of the slopes work has to do with this house. There's a little bit with the driveway, I think, maybe right in here. But that's the slopes work is why it's here before the board. And so just a reminder, it's just this stuff on this parcel that is before the board. This gives you the full context. But the lower part of the drive closer to Parkside Drive is actually on the Jolly parcel. And so that's separate and won't be coming before you unless something really weird happens.
Yeah. So reading through the application, it looked like, I guess I read it to understand that, that while you are going to be disturbing some of the slopes that are at that rate, that it was going to be that to do, it looked like to do the, was it swale work? Not swale, but swale work, that a lot of that, to do all of that will disturb the area more. Can you talk about that a little bit?
You might want to
You know what I mean?
open, here, I'm going to take off share screen so that we can see, Chris, in case he wants to pipe in on any of that.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was having a hard time hearing the question.
Just directly into the mic.
Okay, I just, in reading through the application, it looked like, there was at some point where I think it actually may have been you, Chris, that, that answered a concern saying that, that you felt like the site work was going to maybe disturb more than, help me out here, Meredith, where is that?
I don't know. Do you mean, is it in the emails with,
I know it's in
Kurt?
the,
it has to do with how much,
Yeah.
how many, what degree of slopes in the area that's going to be disturbed by sort of the swale work and the drainage work versus the house is what she's trying to get at, Chris.
Thank you.
Maybe a comparison between the two.
did
I
that come?
guess-
across as-
Yeah, I guess I'm not exactly sure what the,
Can I,
Yeah.
they're talking about the silt beds underneath where the, I think the blasting happens on the
Yeah.
steeper slope that's affected. They're wondering about whether or not there would be more disturbance caused by doing the work underneath for that retaining, silt bed, basically. Or it was just in reference to your response on the emails that we were cycling between us and Kurt. So she just essentially wants to know if, what you meant by the disturbance.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, so this is my responses to Kirk's concern,
Yeah.
Kurt's
Yeah, that I
concerns
was looking at. Thank you.
from
Sorry.
Friday. Okay, yeah, so, silt fence is typically what we refer to as a perimeter control. It's kind of the last ditch. It's the outside edge of the disturbed area. It's something that only gets employed as a sediment catch if what you've been doing on the rest of the site hasn't taken and hasn't been effective. So as a perimeter control, as the name would seem to imply, the intent is to get it installed around the perimeter of the disturbance. Kurt's comments were about the typical installation of a silt fence, which wants to run parallel to the contour, so that any flow coming down the slope isn't being concentrated by the silt fence. In this situation, the only place I see that it was a concern was along the portion of the driveway that's coming up from the existing Jolly driveway up the hill, where we had specified the silt fences again as a perimeter control, but because it's in a fill section, when you establish those perimeter controls, you can't install silt fence on a fill slope that hasn't been built yet. So my solution was to install the silt fence down the slope, counter to the normal approach, and install what's referred to as J hooks in the end of the fence, kind of button the end of the fence around upon itself to create a catchment area for any runoff that might get concentrated by the fact that the fence is running down the slope. So, and it's a measure that was suggested to me as a solution by one of the people in the state construction stormwater permit program, the state erosion control program. And it's something that's codified in the state manual, erosion control manual.
Thank you. I just wanted some clarity on that. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Was probably my biggest question. So have you guys gotten the DPW comments?
Yeah, from Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And DPW is where on this?
So DPW had sent their comments. Chris replied back.
Mhm.
And I got those to DPW, and also let them know that the easement was already recorded.
Right.
I
I did see that.
and I made sure to follow up and ping them this morning just to see if they had any further follow up after getting Chris's comments on Saturday, and they don't have anything. Nope, they haven't
Okay,
provided anything else, and I made sure they know it was going to the hearing today. So,
okay.
if they'd had any more concerns after Chris's responses, they had a window to pipe up.
Okay. Other board members, other questions? Are there, places that you'd particularly like to look at?
Yeah, I guess just follow up to the silt fence. Below the proposed house, obviously you're still with this process before the foundation plan and doing some grading. Is a proposal to put silt fence around the perimeter there too? Not just along the driveway?
I believe so, yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely downslope of that. That proposed fill at below the home. Yeah. I mean, and it would be, and I believe it certainly was my intent to show it on the erosion control plan and every location where it was applicable. There's obviously on the upslope side above the disturbances, it's not applicable. But certainly silt fence on the downslope sides.
Great.
And then, as you said, it's the perimeter controls, so it's the last line of, defense. Could you describe a little bit what's going on above there on site, best practices before the silt fence?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said in my cover letter, the key to everything is execution on the behalf of by the site guy, the guy that's doing the work. But ultimately, the stabilization, Kirk's has asked that we amend the plan to require the installation of the erosion control blankets that we'll be installing on all slopes in excess of 3-on-1 per the state standard. Kirk would like to see those blankets installed within 7 days of the final shaping of the disturbance. Currently the plan specifies 15 days, which is the norm under the state rules. But 7 days is certainly doable. And if that's what DPW feels is appropriate, no problem. The final plans that we will amend the notes to reflect the 7 days. But it's erosion blanket installed on everything on all proposed slopes over 3-to-1. The maximum grade of anything out there, exclusive of areas we believe are going to be a blasted ledge face, is a 2-on-1, the maximum proposed grade, which is a standard engineering practice. A 2-on-1 slope is pretty standard fare. We do expect there to be there's obvious rock, ledge showing, bedrock showing, so there will most likely be some blasting. The amount of which we won't really know until the clearing's done and they can get a drilling rig out there on site to do some probing to know how much. But we do anticipate that the house will be, and both structures will be setting right in a blasted stable hole on Mother Earth bedrock.
So the engineering plan, for the foundation engineering plan that has not been done yet, what did you call that? The engineered site?
The site plan.
I'm sorry.
For the house.
Yeah, so the
It needs it-
engineered foundation plan.
Right,
Right. That's the like one thing that's missing, along with a letter from the engineer specific to the foundation. The engineer letter right now about, no undue risk is about the general site plan.
right,
Because it's different engineering.
right.
So the structural engineer, got that right. We'll do the foundation plan and a letter about the foundation.
And could that even really be done before the blasting?
I'm not an engineer.
I know, I mean, that is a question that I have.
The design, right?
Great.
Yeah,
It's not the
Chris,
design.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that I don't know that it needs to be done before the blasting. It needs to be done prior to issuance of a building permit, but I guess I distinguish, your site plan approval from Meredith's building permit approval, as two independent phases of the same project.
Yeah, my question was really the other way around there. That could you actually do that second engineering plan if you haven't already done the blasting? Like, I would think you would need that information before you made a plan. So I was just wondering if that was true. Um, let me see. What else do we have here that we need to worry about with this? Are there other questions that people read through other parts of
I have a question,
application?
actually, just out of clarification.
Well,
Chris, why would it be necessary once a slope is disturbed to get the foundation engineered? Like, what is the engineer actually doing in that process to make sure that the foundation is then sound in that location?
Again, I'm not a structural engineer, or we'd have done this for you.
Yeah.
There typically it's the foundation design itself most likely isn't going to change much regardless of what they find when they blast. What's going to change is the specifications for any materials that need to be placed below the floor levels, that your basement floor levels. And that if ledge is deeper than we anticipate, then you're going to be buying some structural fill that needs to be properly compacted and placed. And those are the things the engineer, and those are our things that you won't have answers to specifically until the blasting is done.
Right.
The specifications aren't going to change whether it's 18 inches of structural fill or 4 feet of structural fill. But I would be surprised if the actual design of the foundation was anything different than a standard single family residential 8-inch thick poured in place reinforced steel concrete wall. But
Thank you.
If there aren't more questions from the board, I would like to see if there are any questions from people who are attending. Okay, if you'd step up to the podium and identify yourself, please.
I'm Mark Billion. I live at 37 Bailey Avenue, just downhill from the site. And as I mentioned in my email, which I sent out earlier to you all, we're in support of the project, and we're glad that someone's going to make use of that beautiful part connected to Hubbard Park. Reason I wanted to speak to you all was because the issue that always drives me is stormwater management. I've been before the DRB twice before, once when Bill and Jean were selling the lot and I raised the issues with you, and prior to that when they were planning on building the house. I don't see anywhere, and this is really a question to you all, I don't see anywhere in the process that downhill neighbors are taken into account with respect to stormwater management.
So I believe that there's a level at which stormwater management kind of clicks on, and we're not at that level with this application. So it's not really a preference for us. It's a matter of regulation.
Well, I know that I read the report. I read Chris's comments in it. And when the document refers to uphill and downhill, it's really within the project itself, not within the area where we live. We live downhill from the park, from this parcel, and we've lived there for 31 years. So over the 31 years, we've dealt with 31 years of rain events and also having the site disturbed when Bill and Jean built their house. So all of the homes on Bailey Avenue have had to deal with stormwater runoff. All of my neighbors have had to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into dealing with excavation, curtain drains, sump pumps, and those kinds of things, swales. We have a swale. When we bought our house in 1993, there was a swale across the back hillside. And every 2 years, I have to clean that out and deepen it. And this past year, I put some significant time into that. So I just wanted to ask you,
Where,
where where do we take into account? I know you're going to be putting some conditions on the approval of this. And I know Chris mentioned in his document that he thought there would be minimal impact. But where do we look at what's actually happening between the sites? And what do we do if the minimal impact that Chris believes is not actually what turns out?
so I can guess, but Meredith probably ought to tell you. I'm pretty sure I know, but I don't know, and not guarantee it.
So in April of last year, the stormwater provision, that is a general provision that comes into play, and we look at it to begin with anytime a zoning application comes before our office. It's section 3009. Under subpart B of that, about when stormwater management plan is triggered, which is when that big picture review comes in, they set very specific trigger points. And here, where it's outside of a combined sewer area, so you don't have sewer and stormwater lines running together with all the stormwater running into the sewer system, a development has to result in 10,000 square feet or more of impervious surfaces on the subject parcel to trigger a stormwater management plan. So, I'm limited by that. Department of Public Works is limited by that.
We
The
are
board is
limited.
limited by that.
Yeah.
That's, they set those. If this were in a place where you had combined sewer and stormwater systems that were city systems, then the trigger point is 5,000 square feet. So at that point, yes, they would have had to come in with a full stormwater management plan that's approvable by the Department of Public Works. And there's set standards for that. These are the standards we're working with right now. This is sort of an interim point because there's been, they're trying to do a stormwater utility throughout the city. But we had to, this at least gives us something a little more definitive to be able to know when and where to impose that extra standard on projects. We didn't have that before. But yeah, this one doesn't
So
have there.
there's, you're telling me that they are actively working on stormwater management right now.
I'm not part of those discussions, so
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know when that group
Right.
last met. I know that there's a plan in place, and it's
Right.
part of, I think, the city plan to be developing that stormwater utility.
I am just thinking that
It's just,
that might be the better place to go with information about stormwater management, and if you didn't like the triggers, seeing if you get those changed,
Yeah.
or that working with a group that is already working on the stormwater management is probably the best place. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that we don't have a better answer.
And that might be a place to be able to figure out how they're working with things and what other changes they might want to suggest to the planning commission to make to these regulations.
Well, even if they revise it, there's always going to be a cutoff threshold.
Yep.
Yeah.
There has to be.
And so necessarily that means that if you look at a project as being self-contained, you most likely will never hit that cap. But if you look at the project within a neighborhood or within a portion of the town, they're probably, I suppose it depends on how you calculate the 10,000. If you looked at all of the homes that are impacted by the project.
Yep, it specifically says on the subject parcel. So, for policy discussions, unfortunately, this isn't really the place to go. And in my office, really, it's Mike Miller, the planning director. I advise here and there on changes to the regulations by reading them and going, there's no way I can possibly do that. or like proofreading stuff, the big picture policy discussions. It's not the board, and it's unfortunately in our office, not me. I can carry those concerns up.
And then, and it does, the
But-
10,000 trigger point does come before us, I mean, Uh, we,
Um,
hang on a second.
Well,
Uh,
if I could just interject. at this
actually-
point.
I'm sorry. Can you wait
Hold on.
just 1 second? Okay, let's start with Rob.
Oh. I think that when it comes before us, I mean, there's sort of two things of stormwater. There's the type of stormwater that triggers the whole stormwater process and a permit. And then there's the board looking at it and saying like, what does this project do in its steep slope aesthetic to the town and any impacts that it may have off of the site? I think that those are different things. I mean, if you read the sort of, I mean, we're charged to look at erosion, runoff, flooding, degradation of water quality
oh,
in our review-
under the slopes.
under the slopes provision.
Yes.
Now,
Right.
whether that doesn't mean we're to review it as like, does it meet the conditions of a stormwater permit management plan? But it's as a board, do we, feel like there's additional scrutiny needed because this type of steep slope development will have these type of impacts, and that is our
Okay.
role.
I guess, did someone else want to speak? Chris, did you want to say something? Or Kevin? Kevin, it was you.
Yeah, it was me, and I guess I'm thinking. It sounds like we're kind of hamstrung in being able to pursue Mr. Billion's very justified concern. And I'm just wondering how we can advise the Mr. Billion or anybody else in that area for relief from that. I mean, it's the steep slopes there create a situation for stormwater concern, through that whole neighborhood. And it strikes me as a little disingenuous to just say, well, we can't do anything about it. I understand we probably can't, but we at least need to get this channeled in the right direction.
I definitely, I mean, I don't think we're trying to be disingenuous.
Well, I'm sorry, that was a bad choice of words.
Good. I guess I feel like the thing that you're looking for is a more neighborhood-wide look at things, like a bigger area. Then I feel like we really have the right to go in on here as on this application. I guess I do feel like that.
Well, actually, I wasn't asking for that, although in a general sense, at some point, I do agree with you. But within the scope of the project, Chris has done an analysis of what he believes the runoff will be before and after the project. And you're going to approve his recommendation. And if it turns out that there is greater runoff than what Chris believes, or just would like to have some
Recourse.
place to come
Yeah.
back to ask for your help. I'm sure that Ben and Ally are going to do everything they can to make sure the house that they're good neighbors and that they don't
Right.
impact that. But as Chris said, the quality of any plan is dependent upon how it's executed.
Mhm.
And as contractors, I was a contractor, and as Ben is a contractor, we know that sometimes corners are cut. So I just wanted to
Well, I mean, the plan that, hang on 1 second, the plan that will receive conditional approval or whatever will have that stated in it, that this is the expected amount. So that's approved. And if it is different than that, then I think you have the ability to come back here and to, oh, I'm sorry, Meredith. You can go back to Meredith and say, look, this is not what was agreed, this is what the board signed off on. And this is what's happening and it's different. And I would hope that you could probably get it resolved before you got to Meredith, but,
So can I just throw a little something in
Sure.
the mix? So I've actually had to deal with stormwater issues, like 3 or 4 different enforcement issues
I'm
related to
sure.
stormwater over the last couple of years. And so trying to say, hey, this is more stormwater flow runoff than somebody predicted where their current environment is a little hard. If there are specific design features that have either like noticeably have failed and so are no longer in place anymore, or weren't constructed in the way that a design shows it as, that is something that is a lot easier to enforce. So I'm just going to throw that out there because I've had some where I'm like, they built it as the plan said it would. We can't control Mother Nature. If Mother Nature is just dumping more water than it was designed
mean, I
for, but
think-
that was the best engineering standard there was at the time. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I think we're all really aware that Mother Nature has dumped a whole bunch of water on us lately. So
So, but that is the proposed design and the features of that become part of the permit, whether they are an explicit DRB condition or not, right? It's part of the application. And so a failure for it to then be constructed as it was said it would be constructed is potentially a violation of the zoning permit and something that comes back through me to then enforce on as best I can within my limited range of options.
let's,
I just also wanted to say on the topic of expertise and so forth, I think that I also have a unique advantage being in the trades, just to give you a little peace of mind. But having been in the trades for a decade and a half around here, I've created enough connections and vetted enough subs that right now we have the team of subs that I really want to use because of the quality and because I know I can trust them to get it done right. I've been on many jobs with them at the helm, and they're the best that we have. If I was to miss the mark and not be able to use them, I wouldn't be able to confidently say that to you. But that's also part of the reason why I'm fighting so hard to keep this window, because I do have a team of really good guys right now.
okay, thank you. Chris, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what I'd said in the cover letter. Because we weren't under the section of the ordinance that requires the detailed pre and post development analysis, we haven't done a detailed hydraulic analysis of the site. It's not something the ordinance required. My comments are based on a couple of things that one, we haven't altered the routing, the natural routing. We haven't taken water from one side of the hill and dumped it onto the other. We haven't altered the routing, and I think that
Oh, no, that's the projector. They're still there. The
Okay.
projector sort of reset.
sorry,
You're
just-
fine, Chris.
no,
Sorry,
fine.
it's just the screen
Okay.
that everybody else can see sort of went blue and blank for a minute. You're back on. You're good.
Okay, yeah, and again, my comments, we're doing some attenuating any concentrated flows up within the footprint, the disturbed footprint, and the reality is that given what is observably very shallow soils, a lot of ledge sticking up, and the slopes, that I wouldn't anticipate that our altering of those surfaces in the flatter areas where we're primarily working would have any significant change to discharge rates. But I don't have a detailed model to say that specifically, again, because the ordinance didn't require us to do so. So I just wanted to be clear that and I've stated as much in the cover letter that, that there is no detailed hydraulic model of this site.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
If I make, this is sort of a bigger picture comment back to Meredith's point earlier around levers in the process. I think the Office of Resilience is setting up these like kind of block groups around it's like community engagement around issues for preparedness for weather events. So that could also be a good, if there isn't one for Bailey Avenue already, that could be a vehicle to have multiple neighbors give input around like what isn't working on runoff. So that's definitely beyond the purview of like this project, but that could be good strategy to get ideas further than you might as an individual.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. So we have a couple of options here on the approval, provided that we are headed in that direction. I think the biggest thing is whether to approve it or not. Is the first part. The second part is to approve it pending DPW approval and I'm going to get it wrong again, the engineered house basement plan.
That's close.
It's pretty much what it is. And that would have to be signed off on by DPW as well. Is that right? Or is that you? It just comes in stamped.
Yes. Comes in as it will ultimately will get, just like there's stamped, engineered stamped site plans
Yeah.
right now, there will be a set of foundation plans, drawings of the foundation that will be stamped by a structural engineer there. As well as a letter from that engineer with the same attestations about it
Okay.
not being undue risk. So that's what I'm looking to have come in. And it could either be something where you ask the applicants to come back before the board to get a sign off and like a second zoning approval, or it comes in, DPW says yes, as a double check on it, another set of engineers double checks the first engineer, and then sends it on to me to then sort of do I wouldn't do the zoning approval of the building permit until I saw that.
Right.
So the zoning permit could issue for the whole project, but they can't build the house until they get a building permit, which they would not be able to get until
All the pieces.
all the pieces are in place. Just to sort of an overview of our process between zoning, Department of Public Works permits and building permits. No building permit for a particular structure gets issued until zoning, and it has to be either me or the zoning assistant, literally checks off a box in the permitting software for that particular building permit. And also DPW has to sign off on all of their permit issuances before that building permit gets issued. So just issuing a zoning permit for these structures, both the garage and the house, does not mean those immediately can start getting built. There's a whole nother round of checks and balances that happen.
Do other people have thoughts about how this decision might look? Rob?
I don't have any concerns about the foundation plan, waiting that portion of it.
Yeah.
Um,
You want to see it come back to the board?
I don't feel that it needs to come back to the board. I think that the zoning department and public works combined can give approval.
Okay.
I have a little reservations about our angle so far on, erosion control. I think, we'll think about that for a couple more minutes.
Erosion control or stormwater?
Stormwater,
Okay, right.
not
Okay.
not the permit, not the stormwater permitting. Just, I think I'm reading the steep slopes revision, and it's just our duty to make sure that, this steep slopes is not causing any undue erosion, floating curl, water quality off the site, and just to make sure that we've checked the box there. I think we
Mhm.
have, but I'm just thinking about it for a second.
Comment, just building off what Meredith said. So to confirm you're talking through the process here, and with things potentially coming back to both zoning and public works, there is like some degree of risk for the applicant there, in that, the permit may not be issued at that time, depending on whether the
Right.
requirements are met.
Yeah, I mean, it depending on how, so if the DRB gives conditional approval and then I issue my zoning permit, they'll definitely be able to start work on the site work. That is not a structure that requires a building permit. Depending on how you did the condition, right? You could say, yes, you can build the garage because that's not on steep slopes. You can't build, you can't build the primary structure till those foundation plans come in. If for some reason their, structural engineer falls through, or the, DPW and the structural engineer can't agree, that building permit won't get issued. And theoretically, the time limit on the zoning permit could run out and they'd have to come back with like an alternate design or something. But I haven't seen that happen in the 6 years I've been here, except for I've seen one project where the engineering is what ended up becoming too costly, and something that the board approved on steep slopes then didn't get built.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Can I ask a question?
Sure can.
What is that time between the zoning permit? What is that statute of limitations?
So under current zoning, once you start work under the zoning permit, you have 2 years from commencement to wrap up the projects and get it to a point where the structures can be used or occupied. You do have the option for 1 12-month extension in there if you come to me before the end of that 2-year window. You also, just as a sort of buffer, that first 2-year window, right? It doesn't start, you have 2 years to start that. So if for some reason a whole bunch of your contractors fall through, don't start on the site work. Once you start the site work, your 2 years to complete starts kicking in. But really it's 3 years, as long as you come to me for that 12-month extension.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Joe, if you're looking at that first condition might not apply anymore, because DPW, depending on how you feel, if you feel like DPW signed off on the erosion control plan, or if you want if you want the final erosion control plan, like a new draft of it, to be approved by DPW.
Or did DPW approve?
So they went back and forth, right?
But is there nothing further
I did not get anything further from Kurt,
but
after Chris's comments.
today?
Nothing
So-
today. So it's not even that's all fine, but also not hey, we disagree with X.
Right. So I think
I
you
don't
need to keep that pending in there
Okay.
because
Yep.
because you don't know what he's going to say to his responses.
Okay.
And DPW does need to sign off
Yep.
on it.
Perfect. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
I guess my only real concern is, so you have an engineer lined up to do the foundation plan.
Yes, we do. Yep. I forget what his last name, but he's out of Richmond. He's used by most of the building outfits there.
Okay, and he's assured you that it can.
Yeah.
And you have a price on that and everything.
Yeah.
I guess my concern would be that something were to happen and then there's a hole up there.
Yeah.
That's not being filled.
Right.
For a long time.
It would suck for us too.
Yeah, I understand that. That's the worst case scenario for everyone.
Right.
Trying to think of any way there's not really much we can do about that. The engineer says he can do it. Do you have any correspondence with him?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I can show you the estimate that he's given me, and I can get a backup estimate from another engineer just to have it in the back pocket in case. He was the quickest and the most well-known and well-recommended one.
Mhm.
So we went with him, and that's the soonest we could get as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I can find other people too, just to get in line.
I guess for the purposes of this meeting, I don't need to see it now, but if you could, can you include that information as
Okay. So you want to make that,
just to show that the engineer is lined up?
Yeah. It's sort of it's almost like a surety that the project will go forward for the
Yeah, for the
board.
record.
Yeah. Sure, you can include that as a condition that he supplies that
Okay.
to me before the
So-
zoning permit is issued.
I don't think it needs a second estimate. You don't have a second estimate, you said?
I don't at this
Okay,
point, no.
all right. I don't think you need one. Just-
Okay, yeah, but I'm happy to as well, and we will, continue to look for engineers in that 2-year window until we get somebody that, until we either fix the design to the point where it's going to comply or, so I just want you to be assured that we wouldn't just rest with holes in the ground.
So that seems like it's option B there
Yeah.
with an additional condition.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so somebody want to read that?
Great. I will make a motion to grant the request to construct a single-family home, garage with apartment on the second floor, and associated infrastructure involving steep slopes at 0 Parkside Drive, parcel number 118-008001, as presented in application Z 2025-0009, and supporting and supplemental materials, subject to the following conditions of approval. Prior to issuance of any zoning permit, applicant will obtain and provide to the zoning administrator written approval of the erosion prevention and sediment control plan from the Department of Public Works. And then this would be where I add in the foundation and also provide the
Right, so it's a
letter of, I don't know what the correct term. Yeah.
So, well, but this is,
it's
not,
actually
if you're asking, do you want him to provide the estimate that you were saying you wanted as like surety?
Structural foundation designs.
So that's you jump to, and condition number 2.
Okay.
Option B, I think, is where you guys were headed.
Yeah. So
Okay.
basically you go from 1
Yeah.
to 2, B 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You
And
had,
then second condition, prior to issuance of municipal building permits for
For construction.
construction of the primary structure, applicants will obtain and provide to the zoning administrator the engineered foundation plans and letter demonstrating compliance with section 3007 and written in the Department of Public Works approval of such.
Your thing hasn't been included.
Yeah. Isn't that
Your
the
thing
zoning
is to
portion?
prior to.
Okay, so what are you looking for? A letter of surety?
yeah, that's what I was trying to get to, and then you went to something else.
Right.
So you've made the motion. So somebody needs to
Second it.
second, and then there can be discussion to amend.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All right, any discussion? Maybe a little.
I don't think anybody's interested in opposing the intent of what you wanted. I just think it's not in the motion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
yours
fine.
was to get the engineered.
I just don't know
quote?
exactly what I'm asking for. I don't really need the estimate, but just like some kind of, not proof, but like some correspondence between you and the engineer that he's lined up to do the work and available.
I mean,
So
the
I'd
best
like the
thing we have is
contract.
the estimate.
Yeah. or
Okay,
the
on the estimate. we'll
Estimate or
suffice it.
contract. So, so the current motion should be amended by the language.
And it should be before.
Issuance of the zoning permit.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So condition number 1. So the applicant will obtain and provide to the zoning administrator A, written approval of the EPSC plan from the Department of Public Works, and B, a
Contract or estimate.
contract
Documentation of the agreement with.
or
Yeah,
estimate.
building foundation.
Wait, whatever Alex just said.
Written
Yeah.
documentation of the agreement with the structural engineer as to the foundation plan.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I guess,
No
are
tax.
people clear on what that said? Does everybody understand what the conditions are?
If I may say in my own words, just you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I thought that might be good.
Before the zoning permit, we need approval from DPW and an issuance of the estimate to you. And then before the,
To
sorry, yep, to Meredith, and all things Meredith. And then before the issuance of the building permit, we need the structural designs
Yeah.
to be submitted.
The foundation design, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've got the words of the actual motion that were made.
Okay.
Though. So that's good.
All right.
But yes, and it's the building permit of just the house.
Oh, just the
Okay,
house.
the one they went with was just the house, construction of the primary structure, right?
Yeah.
You went with B2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because the garage isn't on steep slopes,
Okay.
right? So you can get, and there'll be two different building permits because they're two different structures.
Got it.
So you'll get a building permit for the garage and that can come first if need be.
Okay.
And then, but the building permit for the house will not be able to be issued
Got it.
until we get those final structural designs and plans.
Okay.
All right. So can we have a second on the amended motion?
Second.
All those, let's do a roll call on this, Catherine?
Yeah, amendment.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I thought we were doing.
This isn't, I'm so confused. This is just a vote on the motion that has been amended in discussion, right? Or is it a vote to amend the motion and then you vote on the motion?
I thought we were doing the amendment to vote on the amendment because somebody made a motion to amend that we then have to vote on that.
Okay.
But, all right, so
So bad.
all those in favor of amending the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, say nay. Excellent. Okay. So we've got the amended motion in there. So that we now want to take a vote on the final decision, which includes that amended motion. And this should be by roll call. So Catherine,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
And Brian's on now. Brian came on.
Brian, are you there?
Yeah, hi, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Alex?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We worked through that one.
So the official decision is not until the signed written decision. That will be when the appeal period starts. And so we'll get cracking on that as soon as we can. And as soon as we have that, because of the way this all worked out, the written decision, when that's issued, the same day we'll also issue the zoning permit. Or assuming that you get me those items that I need.
Yeah.
Right?
Can that just
So-
be a forwarded email or like a forwarded invoice?
So the way this was written, I
Okay.
think, guys, can we pause for a minute just so I can update the applicants? So
Don't
I
ask one
think
thing.
that Chris will ultimately need to just do amendments to the erosion control plan for your parcel. And run that by and get DPW sign off. DPW sign off can be an email. So just feel free to keep me copied on that transfer of plans back and forth. And then, yeah, get me the estimate. So I need those two things. You can work on those now. You don't need to wait for the written decision for those. And then, yeah, once I have those, and we'll be working on the written decision while you're working on that.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thanks very much. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
guys. Sorry.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, our next agenda item. The next item on our agenda is review of the minutes. Have you guys, did you review the minutes?
I'll make a motion to, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March the 3rd.
We're still, could you guys take the conversation out in the hallway? Because we're still trying to do business. Thank you.
Did you
Thank
get
you,
that?
Kevin.
Okay, yep.
All right, so there's a motion. You second, Joe seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, we got that done. So my understanding is we have a bunch of projects coming on April 7th.
Yes. April 7th. I had another application coming on Friday, so we have 4 applications on April
Are they all
7th.
sketch plan for review?
3 are sketch plan subdivision review, all of which have some idea of what they're planning to do. Some have very definitive ideas of what they're planning to do.
It's nothing we've seen before. I
Nope,
mean,
it's all sketch plan.
It's all new, yeah,
It's
okay.
all new. I will, the pending applications I will try and update that pending applications page soon with the applications and send you a fresh link so that you guys can get some previews on those. Because in addition to those 3 sketch plans, we also have an application from the state on a project on their liquor control board offices out on Green Mountain Drive. So I will email everybody when I've got those applications posted for you guys to be able to just take a preview of.
Meredith, can you just tell us in the most general way what that application is? going to
Emergency
entail?
shelter.
Excuse me?
An emergency shelter.
Okay, I thought so. It just,
Yep.
yep.
And so that public hearing notice will go out tomorrow for
Okay.
that meeting.
Oh.
And I'll get those applications linked so you guys can see them.
Meredith, are you also going to check into a different space on the
Yes.
potential for a lot of
Yeah, I've got to
company?
do some very quick work tomorrow because the public hearing notices have to go out tomorrow. But because we are very limited on space, I might need to see if we can move our meeting to a different room. City council is sometimes meeting in the senior center and sometimes meeting at the high school. Those are both spaces that ORCA has been using and that have a little more room than we're able to have here in Memorial Chambers.
What's going on with the council chambers?
It's so you know that moving wall
Yeah.
that's in here, we can't get into the space on the other side because it's actually an office.
Oh,
So that's the community justice center offices and all their desks and everything are over there. So we can't use that space. So
Yeah.
we can't expand.
okay. I understand. I didn't know that. So they've been there since the flood.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Or well, shortly after the
Shortly
flood.
after, right?
Yep. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. I've got to try and work. I have to send out some emails tonight because till I got in here this evening, I kind of forgot about the fact that with 4 applications, we don't really have room for many members of the public.
Senior Center has big tables on the bottom floor
Yep.
that are easily movable. I would think
Yep, so
that with
that-
some pre-planning, that would be a good place to look.
Yep. I think that's where I'm going to reach out first.
Yeah.
So
Are we adjourned?
not yet.
I take a motion.
Just was actually echoing question first.
Oh, good.
A couple people online. I don't know if we have a general, 2-minute limit for anyone that wants to talk in general business, but we have somebody. Jim is on here. Is he just saying hi, just participating?
Hi, Jim. Was there something under the category of other business you wanted to bring up?
I think he's looking for his mute.
You can nod your head and I'll shake it.
Nope. Okay. Thanks, Tim.
All that anticipation, my gosh.
I know.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Bye, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Kevin.
Brian.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
And
I
Take
normally